And now, you're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
What's up, RBLR Nation? Hope y'all are having a great afternoon. Or if you're listening on demand, hope y'all are having a great whenever y'all are listening. We're really excited to talk some Rays baseball. This is RBLR Rays, and I am joined by the man himself, Mr. Ben Whitelaw. Y'all might know him as Dog Pancake. But he has graced us with his presence. How you doing today, Ben?
Hey, I'm good, Carter. How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. The Rays take the field against the Yankees in about a little over an hour. They're facing nasty Nestor Cortez. So they'll be, hopefully rebounding after Friday night's bit of a letdown, but shaking the rust off after the All-Star break. But the big news from this week for the Rays, definitely the stadium vote. Definitely just, I mean, my goodness, it's been pretty much my whole adult life. Well, I've had a kind of a short adult life, so I'll just say my whole life. From the Kevin Costner weird stadium on the bay or on the water or whatever to the strange Montreal experiment, but it's finally here. They voted on it and it passed. Now I think it has to go to Pinellas County and stuff. But Ben, fill me in, man. You're the most knowledgeable Rays person that I know. So, what are your reactions? What happens next? And when does this construction start? When do they get the shovel in the ground?
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, it's really cool that it's finally like official, but we knew the votes were already there. Like it's been like they've had the votes on the St. Pete City Council for since like December of last year. Like we all kind of knew this was coming. It was just a matter of hashing out some legal jargon and paperwork, whatever, clarifying a couple things. But yeah, the Pinellas County Commission just needs to approve the use of that tourist tax to fund the stadium, and now we could see construction start pretty soon. So exciting stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's been a long road for this to happen, but no doubt we're getting, that new stadium. It's going to happen. If you're apprehensive about this deal going through, don't be. This is nothing like any of the other attempts or plans or anything. Like it's come so far and it's going to happen. It's just a matter of, doing all the bureaucracy and legal, political maneuvering and whatever. But it's going to happen though. So pretty excited.
Yeah. I mean, I do understand the people that are still a little nervous about it because there have been quite a few start and stops type of thing. So I get it, but it does feel good. It does feel like this is like you said, it's happening. And once the shovel gets into the ground, once the everything gets start to put into motion, I think we'll all feel a little better. But yeah, it's definitely a huge step, and like you said, it's happening. It's just a matter of crossing the T's and dotting the I's, so to speak. So, yeah, I'm excited. All the renderings have been super cool. Like you said, the tourist tax thing, all the specifics of it are interesting, and I'm kind of trying to shy away from them because it's all super complicated and stuff that's way over my head. So, hopefully everything gets kind of sorted away in the next few weeks or so, and yeah, we'll be getting to talk about what type of cup holders they're going to have. I think that was a question that a radio listener had in the 620. They had a show about it, but we'll see. But another big thing that happened this past week, I mean, this was an eventful week, honestly, but another big thing Rays related, the draft, the MLB draft happened, and the Rays, they did their usual thing. They had a bunch of picks. It was a lot of fun. This was the most invested I've been in an MLB draft in a while. But that's not a super high bar. I can't really say that I'm a draft expert. But what was your biggest takeaway from this draft? Do you have any surprises or maybe like a favorite pick that the Rays made? What were your overall thoughts on this draft from this past weekend?
Yeah, so we're still waiting for the dust to settle. You got to sign the players and all
Right.
that. The Rays have only signed one play. Yeah, they've signed one player so far. Their second round pick, Petre. I think I'm saying that right. Right about at slot, just a couple grand under, so nothing really crazy there. Um, Biggest takeaway was that last week on the show, I predicted we'd see at least 50% college bats, which would be the highest in the bonus pool era, and we saw that exactly on the dot at 50. We had 17% college bats. No, 50% college bats, 17% college arms. I was guessing it would happen in the 15 to 20% range. We had almost 27% high school bats taken. I was assuming 15%, but then a couple high school prep arms dropped out kind of last minute, so that definitely changed things. But yeah, it was really college heavy, which is my biggest takeaway. So, what about you? What was your biggest takeaway from the draft?
Yeah, I mean, I was very interested in, like you said, the college bat aspect of it, because I mean that's the big, like, for anyone that's read Moneyball, that's like the big thing is like, oh, you got to draft college bats because all the data is there and all that stuff. You
Mhm.
know, high school arms are like the worst investment that you can make with your first round picks. But yeah, I was really intrigued by how the Rays did things. I think the Jillian good lord, I don't want to butcher his name. Their first round pick should be super interesting. He's a lot of fun to use in MLB The Show. They gave him a 95 overall card, which was a lot of fun. But yeah, so that was kind of a big takeaway for me. But I was really intrigued by the switch pitcher. I know that's kind of a clickbaity type of thing. Doesn't really have anything to do with actual baseball, but I thought he went really early to Seattle. He went a few picks before the Rays, and I'm just kind of intrigued to see if they, you know, it's kind of like the two-way thing. Like, do they let him keep throwing with both arms? Do they make him focus on one? I don't know. I was really intrigued to see how it all goes. But they drafted a switch hitter and with their competitive balance pick. You know, I love the switch hitters. Tyler Bell, a glove first shortstop. The Rays picked him up with one of their competitive balance picks, and I'm really intrigued by him because he's just got such that like. Please give me your thoughts as well, Ben. But I kind of, what I've read about him is he has a pretty high floor because he's just a really good glove in the middle infield. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on Bell or any other pick that you really enjoyed that the Rays made, other than, you know, of course, Jillian in the first round.
Yeah, I think it's Gillen. I'm not
Oh,
100%
Gillen,
sure.
good
I
lord,
don't know
I'm
if there's
so sorry.
another I in there. I didn't look too much into it.
No, that's
No, Gillen's really cool. Pretty high offensive floor. He was probably the best prep hitter available in the entire draft. So, you know, he's not just a power and defense guy. He's not really well. He's got some power. He's got plus power, plus hit tool. Could fit at second base. Most likely, if they can fit him in center field, if he sticks there, he should have gone top 10, but I don't know if all the teams thought he could be a center fielder, so we're gonna see how that works. And again, this is still contingent on the guy signing, but they might have to go a little bit over slot for Gillen, but the teams aren't drafting players that they didn't already verbally agree to a number with.
Mhm.
Like, if it's over slot, under slot, like, the teams have already discussed it with the players and their agents, so, like, they know what they're getting into. You know, a couple things might change here and there, but they already know what kind of money they're spending and who's signable and who's not, and especially with those college arms, like, they took, like, 8 or 9 straight college pitchers in the later rounds. Those guys are all gonna get signed, so that's just a matter of waiting that out. Anyways, on Bell, though, he does have, uh 75, maybe 80 grade bat speed. Like he's got like elite bat speed. So elite bat speed as a switch hitter from both sides of the plate. Um, coupled with that high floor with his glove, that's going to be interesting. It's always a matter of like developing a hit tool for high school guys. So we'll see how that happens. I also like Fluelling, that catcher they got from Canada. They went pretty Canada heavy this draft.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
weird. Lots of even, like, there was, like, a middle round high school pick that was, like, originally from Canada.
Mhm.
Um, anyways, yeah, Llewellyn, he's got a pretty solid defensive foundation back there. He's got plus pop times. He moves pretty well laterally. Um, maybe a bit like 55 bat speed, but he produces, like, plus exit velos, so there could be, like, you know, maybe double plus power in there at some point. Again, hit tool, who knows where that's gonna be, but he's a really solid left-handed hitting catcher. All the other guys, you know, they've all got cool things, I guess, but it looks like they're gonna need to go over slot on their 3 prep guys that they got kinda early in Gillen, Bell, and Flewelling, and then probably under or at slot for everybody else. So we'll see how that goes, but they'll probably sign everybody. I was really surprised that Weatherholt fell to number 7. Like, he was a top 3 player in this draft, and, it's just how the money's gonna work out for other teams and whatever. Um, Cardinals got a steal, man, at number 7. I know Eureka's really happy about that, so that's pretty cool. And yeah, what was your favorite pick of the draft? Like, it doesn't even have to be Rays related, or was it the switch pitcher pick? Was that
Yeah, it
it?
might be the switch pitcher. He was really interesting. I was kind of I was kind of intrigued. I had never heard of him. I hadn't really heard much about him. But good lord, I'm gonna butcher this name too. I don't know what was up with this draft and all the names, but Duran Jello Saginte, the he that's his name, the switch pitcher,
I
and I
think
was
it's
just like,
Durangelo Senjay. I think it's
oh
just Senjay. I think so. That's why I've been saying switch pitcher, to be honest with
yeah,
everybody, all 40 of you that are here, like, I'm gonna say switch pitcher. I'm sorry.
right.
I was not prepared to talk about him much. If I was, I would have learned how to pronounce his name, so I'm sorry. But
No, no, not at all. Trust me. I've been referring to him as the switch pitcher as well because there's only one of them. You're not exactly working like Pat Venditti or God, I can't even pronounce his name either. But he's not. He wasn't in this draft. So yeah, he's probably my favorite pick just because like I also like the Mariners are my favorite like West Coast team. Like obviously Rays number 1 and everything. But so I'll be really excited to see how he plays out. Like just really interesting stuff because he seems to actually be able to pitch with both arms. Like it's not like a one of those weird like kind of gimmicky things. Like it seems like he's got it down pat. And the Mariners cutting edge organization and everything. So maybe they'll be willing to actually let him play it out. Because then if he has an injury on one arm, he can just switch to the other and vice versa. So I'm kind of intrigued by that for sure. But yeah, that was definitely my favorite pick. Yeah, did you have a favorite non-Rays pick or anything? Like maybe a guy that really stood out to you, other than the Cardinals guy, obviously.
yeah, I mean, that was surprising. I mean, it's like a pretty easy pick at that point when a top 3 player falls to you at number 7, like, you've
Right.
gotta pull the trigger there. But I really, really I don't necessarily like it, I just think it's really interesting, so that's why it's my favorite pick, but Brody Brecht at number 38 to Colorado, like,
Oh, yeah.
they
Yeah,
they have I mean, he's essentially like a lot of scouts have talked about Brecht as like a high school pitcher in a college pitcher's body, like, he
right.
has
No command.
maybe 30 command.
Yeah, nothing
Stuff is off the charts,
for sure.
velo off the charts, like, he's just an insane athlete, so toolsy, super raw still, even though
Yeah,
he's coming out of college, so he's like yeah, that's gotta be my favorite pick. I can't wait to see what the Rockies do. They have made some, like, nothing, like, groundbreaking in, like, their front office hires, but they've made some
right,
interesting hires, like, they're not going to be a they don't wanna be a punching bag anymore, and they're
right.
doing something about it, so it starts with, your foundation, your team that you've got running the organization, so, interested to see how Breck develops. It's and then also, of course, watching Charlie Condon and Coors is gonna be
Super fun.
that's like
Yeah,
at least 40 home runs a year, like
right.
and he can hit a little bit too, he's not just a power guy, so, yeah, they had a really good draft, but that Breck pick was really, really interesting to me.
Yeah, I like all that I heard was that Brecht was like a super fun, like advanced analytics pick. Like everyone loved him, and then they went like the Rockies picked him, and everyone was like, "Oh no, not the Rockies!" Because the
Yeah.
Rockies unfortunately don't have the most sterling reputation when it comes to these kind of things. So, but like you said, hopefully they're turning it around. I really like a lot of their players. Like they got Doyle and Tovar and Nolan Jones, and like I said, I hope, like you said, I hope they're not a punching bag because they're just the butt of jokes so often. The poor Rockies. Hope they can turn it around in that gorgeous stadium. Really fun. So, but yeah, it's definitely going to be really fun to see how they can develop these draft picks because they had some interesting ones. But moving on from the draft, there was also the All Star game, kind of a big deal, like the All Star game, the Home Run Derby, and all that stuff. Did you have a favorite moment from All Star game weekend, or something that stood out to you?
Yeah, I really like I like the futures game. I like it when we get, like, more reliable Hawkeye StatCast data. on a
Right.
lot of the pitchers. Hitters, it's really too small to, like, tell anything, but
Of course. Right.
fun stuff with the pitchers, and I didn't like it, but I thought it was really interesting that the Futures Game showcase kinda just flopped completely.
Yeah.
They ran it on tape delay, which was
Really weird. Yeah.
so weird, and almost, like, every person with a platform on Twitter that was, like had something to say about it probably could have done it better than what Major League Baseball did, so it feels like they really didn't put much thought into it. I'm sure they'll do better in the future, but they definitely could crowdsource some ideas and do better. So, um, yeah, I was really excited to see that, and then once I saw it, I was not so excited. It kind of sucked. But what about you? What was your favorite thing from the All Star Game festivities?
Yeah, I mean, getting to see Trey Morgan was cool. He was a lot of fun, but yeah, that whole it was just a mess. Yeah, then Roman Anthony came out and hit a bunch of home runs, and then that was the end of it. And it was just kind of like, oh, okay. But yeah, I mean, the Otani home run was really cool. Like he hit the crap out of that. Like
Mhm.
it's it's kind of basic because it's Otani, but that was a lot of fun. It was kind of anticlimactic, but it was fun to see Paredes out there in his first All Star game. And he was hanging out like with his kids and stuff during the festivities. And my God, his kids look exactly like him. It's insane. Like I don't think I've ever
Yeah.
seen someone's kids be like just more of a carbon copy. That was so cool. He seemed to have a blast, and that was awesome. Because Paredes, he's great. But yeah, the Otani bomb was probably the best part. But Teoscar Hernandez winning the home run derby, that was a lot of fun. Um, him and Bobby Witt going at it was a good time. I thought Bobby Witt had it there at the end. That home run, or the I guess it's a non-home run, but it looked like a home run for a second there. He came up. Witt Jr. just came up just short, but yeah, it was a fun weekend though. It's the All Star game. It's lost a little bit of
Yeah.
its charm over the years, but hopefully they'll be able to do some things to maybe create that magic that they used to have. But if you're looking for some magic for your wardrobe, if you're looking for some great gear, because we've got a crap ton of stuff at shop.rblrsports.com. We've got some really cool stuff there. We've got the Rowdies watch party tonight. So if you're looking to pull up, definitely pull up there. And then afterwards, if you're looking for some gear, you can shop. You can go on there, and we'll give you a promo code that's Flappy FLAPPY, and that gives you 10% off your entire order. So definitely check that out for us if you're looking for some hot gear. All right. So, another big thing that's coming up, obviously, this past week was super eventful, and the next few weeks are going to be even more so. The hot stove, I guess that's more of an off-season thing, but the trade deadline is coming up. So, there's a lot of news things, a lot of rumors with the Rays. They always listen on everyone. So, it's kind of tough to really nail down what's actually going to happen. But, these next 10 games could be huge because the Rays are kind of hovering around 500. Their wild card standing isn't super great, but it's also a lot of time left in the year. So, what do you think that the Rays are going to do? Like, you think they're going to be buyers, sellers, maybe combo of both? And, how would maybe you approach the deadline if you were, in charge of everything? Not that you're not already in charge, basically, but.
Well, what record do you think they're gonna have after this 10-day stretch? Because that's gonna kinda drive. I mean, I think they're gonna do a little bit of buying and selling like they've kind of
Yeah,
already done.
for sure.
Um, but, what do you think is gonna happen after this stretch? I think it ends with a series at home against the Reds, but we've got, 4 against the Yankees, so 3 more of those, 3 in Toronto, and then 3 at home against the Reds, who are also battling for a playoff spot. So what do you think is gonna happen here?
I mean, it's a 10-game stretch. It's tough to really like put all so much pressure on such a short period of time. But I do get it because, like, it's right before the deadline, and you've got to make a decision on some of these guys. So I do think they're going to do a little bit of both, like you mentioned. I wouldn't be surprised if Eflin maybe got moved or a pitcher like that, some in some capacity, because Springs is coming back. But who knows? It's the Rays. They can do some funky stuff. Maybe next week we're talking about Luis Robert in a Rays uniform. Not probably not, but it's weird. The Rays can do the unexpected. So I'm not really sure. It's a tough thing because, like you said, these 10 games are going to be kind of big in making the decisions, but at the same time, like the Rays do a great job of looking at things from like 1,000 feet in the air, big picture kind of thing. So I think that they might already know what they're going to do, and maybe they're just kind of using these next 10 games to really shape what they want to do. But yeah, I'm really intrigued to see how it all plays out, because it's the Rays. They're always going to do some crazy stuff for sure. So yeah, I'm excited for sure. But if they end up around 500, I'd imagine that they probably don't sell too hard. Like I don't know. Maybe you disagree, Ben, but I'd imagine if they're hovering around 500, they're still in good shape to maybe make a run towards the end of the season and try to turn things around, especially as Springs and Rasmussen come back.
Yeah, I mean, that's assuming they do come back, because you really never
Right.
know with, pitcher injuries, and
Of course.
Rasmussen's had 3 Tommy John surgeries, like,
Yeah.
is he gonna come back as a starter? I think a good question to ask about, you mentioned Eflin possibly being traded, is, like, how different would his value be at this deadline versus the offseason? Because, like, is it gonna be more? Is it gonna be less? Is he still gonna be healthy? Like, he's probably what, like, the second best starting pitcher that's, like, technically available, assuming, Skubal is available. I had something here. So, I mean, he would probably be not the second best pitcher available in the offseason, but so do they just sell high on him now no matter what? Because you could have, Springs and Rasmussen coming back? Like, I don't know, there's a lot of questions to ask, though. It's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because, he has been kind of a consistent veteran presence in that rotation. I don't know if that's something that can really be measured, the presence that he brings in the clubhouse. But at the same time, like you said, there's with this new wild card format, it's really interesting to see all the teams kind of be unsure of whether or not they want to buy, especially because, it's just all about getting in. Once you get into the dance, you can do some crazy things in the playoffs. So yeah, I don't know. The Rays could kind of take advantage of maybe kind of a weird market where there's not really a whole lot of teams that are outright selling. And even the teams that are selling, they don't necessarily always have the best, the most attractive pieces. So yeah, I don't know if the Skubal thing is really interesting. If he does get dealt from Detroit, that would be really crazy. Like Skubal's a Cy Young candidate, but at the same time, is his value ever going to be higher? Like, or is Detroit really better off trying to get some more position players? I don't know. That's a really interesting conversation. The White Sox are kind of in a similar position with Crochet. So yeah, there's a lot of moving parts. If neither of them are available, though, then Eflin's definitely up there. He's kind of a pretty good option, especially considering there aren't really a whole lot of other teams kind of in the market to sell. So, yeah, I don't know. Paredes has been a
Well,
name that's
even
been thrown around. Sorry, go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say, even, like, Detroit, though, they just won 3 in a row, so now they're
Yeah,
6 out of a
exactly.
wild card. Like, they're still, I think the cutoff in at least the American League, uh, National League seems pretty clear, like, the Nationals are maybe the last team that could consider going for it, but, like, the Blue Jays, I guess they should probably just give up. They're 9.5 out. The Rangers are 7.5 out. They could probably still try. They're getting some reinforcements to their roster lately. Detroit 6 out, Rays 5.5 out. So I think I would draw that line just below the Rangers. So, like, the White Sox would be stupid not to listen to offers on Crochet. Like, you have no chance. Like,
Right.
take that money while you can, or whatever, teams are throwing at you. So Skubal might not even be available, so that kind of makes Eflin more available. So is he worth more now, or, like, when his contract goes to 18 million next year, like, do they run with that, or do they try to offload? There's so much that goes into it. It's not just like this team is out of it, this team's in it, this team's the buyer, this team's the seller. Like, there's so much behind it. So it's going to be really interesting. But go on about Paredes. What
Oh
were you
no,
saying?
yeah, I mean it's the Rays, so it's not really anything super of note, but I've seen a bunch of, Yankees Twitter fans and stuff just talking about, oh, they either love Paredes or they hate Paredes. They're talking about, oh, well, is he worth Spencer Jones? And the Rays have been scouting a lot of the Yankees prospects, and it's like, well, man, the Rays scout everyone's prospects. I'm not really sure that that's really a telltale sign that the Rays are going to do anything, but yeah, I mean the Yankees have Jason Dominguez as well. I like Jason Dominguez as a kind of an interesting, fun little project, but he doesn't really seem like the type of player that maybe the Rays would trade for. But I don't really know. It's a really fascinating time. I'd love for the Rays to keep Paredes, but trust in Erik Neander. He's the best. So whatever he decides is going to be appropriate for the Rays will probably be the best. So yeah, I'm excited to see how this deadline plays out for sure. But some kind of tough news that came out today. Yandy Diaz going on the restricted list, but Curtis Mead got called up. So I'm kind of excited to see Mead get some more run time. I know he kind of had a bit of a disappointing start to the year. He got optioned back down. But what are your thoughts on Mead getting some more run time? He's starting today against the lefty Cortez in Yankee Stadium. So what are your thoughts on Mead getting some more playing time in the majors?
I've been waiting for this. I'm so excited about Curtis Mead. Like he's the adjustments he's made like this season are basically the same level of adjustments that Josh Lowe made at the end of 2022, like right before he broke out in 2023 and had a great year. So really, really excited about Mead. I did throw a couple things together here. He's swinging a lot more. Like his swing rate is way up, but he's using his double plus contact ability to keep himself in at bats. So instead of just taking a pitch that could be a strike, might not be, he's just fouling it off. Like he's not taking chances. So he does have like that higher swing rate in the shadow zone, which is, pitches that are slightly in the zone, but, fringe, but then maybe a little bit off the plate. Like he's swinging it a lot more at those. He's fouling them off. He's not looking to do damage on those. He kind of knows himself a little bit better this year. But then his chase rate, which is, that zone that's just outside of that shadow zone, he's swinging a lot less there.
Hmm.
So he's really kind of finding himself as a hitter and using the things that he's good at to help him do what all good hitters do, which is look for a pitch that you can do damage on. And he's been doing that. His lower end exit velocities are higher now, so like his lowest lows have improved. He's still got some pretty high highs with the hard hit rate, a little bit over 40%. It's up to 41% this year. Tighter standard deviation on his launch angle, so he's getting that batted ball quality, consistency, whatever. Consistent line drive hitter and consistently like 85, 90 plus. So it's not always hard contact, but it's very firm and it's line drives. One more thing, maybe 2 more things. Oh, yeah, against velocity. So that's, like, the biggest adjustment from AAA to the majors is you're not seeing a ton of major league velocity in AAA because if guys could throw 95 plus, they'd be in the majors,
Right.
which is part of the reason why you saw Manuel Rodriguez get bumped up, when Maton was traded. But anyways, Curtis Mead, his contact rate on 95 plus is up 9% from last year. So he's kind of I haven't looked into the specifics about what he's necessarily doing with his bat path or like his hand placement, swing, whatever, to kind of get to those pitches a little bit more. But he's got like at near elite bat speed. I wouldn't call it elite. I'd say maybe like 70 bat speed. But anyways, he still is maintaining that while shortening up his swing. So I'd like to see if somebody could put together. I mean, I could probably do it. I'm just kind of lazy, I guess. Um, like a swing acceleration metric because the longer swings tend to have higher bat speeds, but then the shorter swings with high bat speeds are the ones that kind of stick out, and that's kind of what Curtis Mead is doing. Short swing, high bat speed, pretty interesting there. And anyways, he's not just like slapping 95 to the shortstop and grounding out. His slugging percentage is up on 95 plus from 684 last year, which is it seems good, but like fastballs are the worst pitches. So like everybody hits fastballs better than they hit other things. So 684 sounds good. It's okay. It's up to 810 this year. So he's doing damage on high velocity. He's getting to high velocity. He's not chasing as much. It's everything that you'd want to see from Curtis Mead. I still don't see him as a third baseman long term. He can do it occasionally, but he looks like he's going to be second base DH, maybe first base. I think he's fine as a second baseman though. But that's my word vomit text waterfall about Mead. Yeah, I don't know. What are you thinking about? What do you think about Curtis Mead and what are some of the other options I guess the Rays could have gone with to fill in for Yandy while he's away with a family matter right now?
Yeah, to be quite honest, I don't really think that there are any other better options. There aren't really any other options that I would have gone with. I kind of was like, oh yeah, Mead getting called up, Biondi going on his thing, then that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the progress that he's made is huge. I mean, my goodness, like the basically it just sounds like he's had a better approach and he's making harder contact, and like it's just like, oh, those are like the two most important. Those are two of the most important things as a hitter. Like that's great. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm really excited. He should be a lot of fun to watch, especially against this lefty. What makes you like? I don't. This sounds like a challenging question, but if you wouldn't mind going into more detail, like about his defensive position, because I've been fascinated by his defensive position because like he kind of looks weird out there, like just the eye test. He can look a little uncomfortable defensively sometimes. So what goes into the process of maybe moving him to second as opposed to sticking him at third?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, just from what I've seen, I'll have to take a look at some of his like actual data, but it doesn't look like his arm isn't very strong. And like
Right.
typically you want like you want your best arm at shortstop, but you want a strong arm
Oh,
at
for
third,
sure.
maybe like a stronger arm but less range. Those types of guys are like third base. So like Isak Paredes, his arm is fine, but his range is limited, so that's why he was moved off shortstop. A little while ago. But yeah, okay. So arm strength is not very good. Range isn't great, but it's fine. So like a second baseman. Um, yeah, it's not so much like he's not athletic because he's got like good foot speed and stuff. It's just the lateral movements. It's not, he's more of a line to line runner. He's not
Mm.
so much of a shuffle to the side and
Sure.
snare
Right.
the slow line drive kind of guy. So it's a combination of things, but it's more so his arm. Because I think his range would be fine at third because you really only have to move in one
Right.
direction there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's mostly his arm. So yeah, that's all. I don't have a ton on his defense because it's really hard to get,
Of
like,
course. Right.
good minor league footage of a player defensively, but what we've seen at the majors is, fine, and
Yeah.
it's good enough to draw a conclusion from.
Yeah, and like you said, it's tough to make those types of evaluations based off of the minor league data. But yeah, I heard like there was one time, like there was one, I forget where I heard it, but someone described his throwing motion as like someone who doesn't really know how to play baseball. And I was
I
like, man,
mean,
that's kind of
kinda.
harsh, but like I kind of get it. It's a bit awkward. It's a bit tough to watch. So yeah, the second base move definitely makes a lot of sense for sure. So yeah, I totally get it, but I wanted to hear your thoughts on it because it's just fascinating. I just find that stuff so super interesting, like moving around prospects and stuff like that. But speaking of Mead, like he's in the lineup today, and the reason he is because the Rays are going with an all right-handed lineup.
Oh, my
Nasty
favorite.
Nestor Cortez. Yeah, so I wanted to get your thoughts on it because there's always this kind of old theory that I've heard that pitchers get into a rhythm when they're facing the same handed hitter over and over and over again. But it sounds like one of those things that like kind of makes sense commonly, like it's kind of common sense kind of thing, but like in actuality, it might not make sense. So I wanted to hear what your thoughts were.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever seen any of the data on that theory that pitchers get into a rhythm? I mean, sometimes it looks like that, but do
Yeah,
they?
I mean, I haven't really done a whole lot of deep dive digging, but the most consensus that I've gotten is that it's just a myth. Like that's not actually a thing. Like they don't get into a rhythm or anything. Like it doesn't really matter that much if the previous hitter was the same handedness or not. But I wanted to hear your because they're the Rays are known for this. They've done this a lot this year, all righty lineup because they have a lot of really good right handed hitters. So yeah, they're going with it today for versus Cortez. So I wanted to hear your thoughts on it and maybe if you had any insight or amazing data points on this.
Yeah, I do. I was kinda just drawing it out a little bit. So it works. It doesn't work for every team, it doesn't work against every pitcher. There is no one size fits all thing in baseball, but the Rays have been really successful with the all right-handed bat lineup. I thought we would have seen Brandon Lau in there just because he does have some pretty good numbers against, Cortez, but I'm sure he'll get into the game at some point. Um, but, he's still kind of coming back from a broken toe, so you wanna
Give them
not
some time.
push it if you don't have to.
Mhm.
And really, like Cortez is pretty strong against lefties, so it's in a larger sample. Lau would bound to falter against him. So, anyways, Rays right-handed bats this year in the first. So this is just filtered by right-handed bats who play for the Rays against a left-handed pitcher in the first 4 innings of a game this season. They have a 124 WRC plus, which is the sixth best in the league among teams that run out right-handers against left-handers in the first 4 innings. So it works. It works more than 24 other teams in the league. There are no complaints. Like it's really solid, and that's including the less than ideal performances they've gotten from some of their players like early in the year. So like Randy and Yandy. I actually want to look at that now. So if you could stall, maybe do
Yeah.
something while I pull that up.
Yeah, absolutely. I figure I can get into the record. We were talking about this in our little group chat I think it was about a week or two ago, and their record at the time was 14-7 against left-handed starting pitchers. So,
Mhm.
maybe that hopefully it'll be increased by now, and hopefully it'll be after a win today, it'll be even more increased. But for our listeners, if you're new here, welcome in. Definitely stick around for a while. We've had a really great show, and if you'd like to start from the beginning, you can catch us on demand at youtube.com/RBLR Sports. But if you've been here before, definitely give us a follow or a like, subscribe, or a share. We'd really appreciate it. It's kind of a free way to help our show. You can give us a follow at RBLR Sports. We're on all the social medias and stuff. And you can join a conversation on YouTube if you got any burning questions, or maybe you want to tell us both that we're idiots and we don't know what we're talking about, which for me, at least, that's very true. So, but anyways, what'd you get, Ben? What cool
Oh
stats
man.
you got for us?
All right, so same exact parameters, as I said before, as a right-handed hitter versus left-handed pitching in those first 4 innings. Guess what their team WRC plus is since May 1st? So not even when Randy and Yandy were like fully snapped out of it and finally sitting on the fastball.
Right.
What do you think their WRC plus is in those same parameters, but from May 1st on? If you
I'm
had to
gonna
guess,
say 142.
it's close. It's close. 155, best in the
Ooh,
league.
there
So
we go.
since May 1st, righty on lefty, first 4 innings, best in the league. Um, I I think that if it was easier to find this stuff, I think more people would kind of be on board with it and like understand it. But there's also that layer of like the if it bleeds, it leads, like the negative headlines, the Debbie Downer stuff gets a lot more publicity and a lot more engagement. A lot of people will only leave reviews for restaurants online if they had a bad experience.
Okay.
It's like that kind
Yeah.
of thing. Um, so it is what it is. Like we even saw with the stadium stuff. Like we knew like 99% and like it was just legal stuff they had to settle and all that political paperwork, whatever. Like we knew they were going to get a stadium. Like we knew the votes were going to pass. The city council members who they needed to vote for them, they had 5 votes on the city council. They have, I think, like almost all the votes they need on the Pinellas County Commission for the tourist tax, the other vote that's going to happen. Like we've known these things since December, but that's not that's not engaging content when it's, like, simple and makes sense. Like, you gotta rile people up. So I understand, like, some outlets have bills to pay, whatever, but or we could just be honest and, not push fake things, so I don't know. Um, Pretty cool that 70 people just heard that, though. Maybe 72, I don't know what we're at exactly right now, but that's pretty cool.
Hey, yeah, we're 75.
75? Oh,
There
man,
we go.
even
That's
better.
three quarters of 100. Only 25 away from triple digits. Quick
I
math.
know.
I'm a
Yeah, we're
mathematician.
only at 42 minutes, so if anybody's got, like, a quick thing they can throw at us on YouTube, and if you share this, you could double this to 150, so why don't you
Right.
share our live stream? I've got a little bit of time here if anybody has questions about anything, trade deadline, draft, stadium stuff, I think it'd be cool if they had minor leaguers in the home run derby. That was something I wanted to say earlier. Like if
Ooh.
they did like their field of 8 and then like 2 minor leaguers and then
Right.
just kind of see cuz like James Wood, like I know that
Oh,
he's
yeah.
in the majors now, but like I would love to see James Wood and like kind of Spencer Jones in a home run derby. I think he's really cool. He's got some power. Devison De Los Santos is another guy with some real power in the minors. So these guys put up like comparable major league pop. It's just, a matter of developing some other things. So I don't know. Would you want to see minor leaguers in the home run derby, or do you think they would? I mean, they'd probably just get flushed in the first round, honestly, because like it's hard to compete with major leaguers. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be a lot of fun. I remember all those, I think the 2 biggest the White Sox had Eloy and Luis Robert coming up through their
Mhm.
system, and when they had the minor league home run derbies, like, they were putting on shows in minor league stadiums, so I think it'd be a lot of fun. Like, we could see Xavier Isaac, we could see a Rays guy go up there and hit the crap out of the ball a bunch of times. So yeah, definitely not opposed to that at all. And it would increase exposure to, like, young guys that are coming up, kind of draw more interest in that kinda thing, which I think Major League Baseball really could do a lot more of. I mean, we talked about the futures showcase being kind of a mess, and you want to grow the game. You want more people to be interested, and I think that would be a great part to do so. It'd be a great thing to try to drum up some interest in teams having guys that are moving up through their system. So, because not every team can be like the Rays making the playoffs every year. They got to have prospects to look forward to. But yeah, no, that would be a really fun idea. Because minor leaguers are like you mentioned, Spencer Jones has a ridiculous amount of pop. James Wood is huge, like he's like
Oh yeah.
6'6" or whatever. Because I remember when Judge was in the Derby for like one season, he was in Miami, and it was still when they were doing the matchups, and he didn't even have to like go overtime. Like he just beat their record because he was the 1 seed, and so he
Yeah.
just beat their number, and so we didn't even really get to see Judge like at his full power. So that was kind of crazy. And people were saying that Wood or Jones could be like the left-handed version of Judge. So, that'd be a lot of fun. But yeah, that'd be an interesting thing. I'm trying to think of some cool other all-star ideas. I mean, the big hot topic thing is like the uniforms, like going back to
Mhm.
having everyone wear their own jerseys. Like that makes a
Yeah,
lot of
I think
sense.
that they could do that for sure.
Yeah. And I think Manfred mentions that, like, yeah, like you know, this is something that we'll look into because I didn't really dig the all-star jerseys this year. I mean, I never am like, "Oh, yeah, these are super cool," but, like, these were
Mhm.
especially, like, kind of dull. I don't know, they were just kinda blech, I don't know, but, I like the stadium, though. I think that Ranger Stadium's really cool. I went there this past year, a few months ago, and it's kind of like a Costco from the outside, like, it just looks really weird, but, like, once you get in, you're like, "Oh, like, this is kinda nice." But, ha have you been to any other ball like, have you been to the Texas Rangers ballpark or any other stadiums that
No, I'd love to go to that one. I really wanna go to, Pittsburgh, obviously, like,
Oh,
I feel like
Pittsburgh's good.
that's, like, the one that everybody has to go to, so kinda missed my opportunity this season, but maybe in, like, 2 years, I think they're doing, like, the home for one team and then home for the other team, like, the next year. Okay, we're up to 80 now, that's good. Sorry,
Hey, there you go.
saw the message, I got excited. Um, oh, I just remembered another big factor for the trade deadline stuff will be, like, the 40-man roster because 'cause they've
Oh,
got the
yeah.
Rule 5 draft, obviously, again this offseason, so
Mhm.
they're gonna have to protect a couple guys. Right now, 40 man is at 30, no, 37 because technically Yandy's on the restricted list. But when he gets back on, it'll be at 38. They just added Tyler Zuber, relief pitcher, bullpen arm in Durham. Probably not much going on there if he gets put on the active roster, but he throws a ton of strikes. Um, and if the Rays have kind of shown that if you throw strikes, they'll give you opportunities. So um, yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how the 40 man is handled, between now and then the deadline and then the off season because you can still, like, release some guys. I don't think you can make any trades like, um between the time the season ends to the Rule 5 draft. I think you can only, like, release players or put them on waivers, so we might see some of that. The only 2 guys with expiring major league deals would be Sean Armstrong and Ahmed Rosario. I think Uceta, Lovelady, and Alex Jackson are all on expiring minor league deals, so I think so, I'm not 100% sure. And then we have to see how, like, the draft picks impact the rosters at the minor league level because teams are now only allowed to have 165.
Right.
But I think they can have 175 in the off season, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to check that. So that's going to be another. There's just so much. There's so many layers to this. So I want to get like your overall thoughts on how this trade deadline could impact the Rule 5 roster crunch this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, I know one name. He's a personal favorite. Ronnie Simon or Ronnie Simone. My apologies. I know that he's been unprotected in the Rule 5, and they didn't take him, or they didn't lose him or anything. So I'd be interested to see if maybe he gets dealt, or maybe he gets called up at some point. I don't know. Just see. We'll see how the season plays out. But yeah, with Ahmed and Army, I mean, it's just they're on expiring deals, like you said. So if they get dealt, then that's just two more 40-man spots. And
Mhm.
McClanahan, I mean, he's on the 60-day, so he's not on the 40-man, right? Like he's not eating up a 40-man spot. So he'll come back next season. So maybe they look to deal another guy in that space. But yeah, I don't
Well,
know.
no, the 60-day guys have to be reinstated to the 40-man before the Rule 5 draft. So like you need space for McClanahan. I think he'll be the only 60-man guy at that point. But either way, like anybody that's on the 60-man, which will include McClanahan, like they need a roster spot. So that's going to be interesting as well.
Yeah, and then I mean, with Ahmed and Army, like if they don't get dealt, then the Rays, I mean, they probably won't re-sign them. So those will be two spots that
Yeah.
that get opened up anyways. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. Ahmed's kind of an interesting case because he can play a little bit of shortstop in the Dodgers. I mean, they traded for him last year, right? So I mean, they could kind of make it another deal for him. They could bring him back. That'd be kind of interesting. And Army's tough. Yeah, he's had a rough year, but he was so good last year. I just remember him coming in for 2 innings and just being lights out. So it's been tough to see him kind of fall back a little bit production wise. But yeah, the 40-man crunch is always tough. Like they always have to make some difficult decisions just because, unfortunately, like you said, the minor league rosters being constricted also makes that difficult. So yeah, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see what the Rays do, what decisions they decide to make. But we're kind of coming up the end of our episode. Unless you have any more pressing questions or anything you wanted to address, Ben, before we hop off.
No, I'm good. That covers it. Yeah, I'm just looking to see if I had literally anything else, but I guess 50 minutes is solid. Oh, we have a thing. We
From
have
my
a thing.
mom. Hey, mom. Any thoughts on leaving men on base? So frustrating. How to improve? Unfortunately, I mean, Ben, I'll let you take the lead on this eventually, but my initial thoughts is that there's not really a way to improve other than just get better. It's sort of like it's sort of like how do you avoid missing 3-point shots? Like, oh, just shoot more threes, just get better at shooting. Like, there's not really a good answer for this question, unfortunately. It is frustrating though. Like, I get it, less than 2 outs and there's a runner on third and he just gets left at third. It's tough to watch, but unfortunately, with the high strikeout rates, low offensive production, and all that, that's bound to happen a lot. But Ben, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
All right, I'm pulling up this right now. All right, so since May 1st, 101 WRC plus is a team with runners in scoring position that ranks 16th in the league, so they're middle of the pack. Um, Last year they were, let me check this. So last year with runners in scoring position as a team, they were second in baseball, 127 WRC plus, virtually the same roster. Um,
Yeah,
Basically the same, like the same core guys. And then in 2022, as a team, runners in scoring position, 108 WRC plus. So that was basically the same roster too, but that's when everybody got hurt at the same time. Um, Kind of like towards in like the second half of the year, so whatever on that. And then 2021, same core guys again, but they're all healthy this time. 114 WRC plus, so fifth in the league. Um, I think yeah, it is Alex Jackson's fault, that's correct, so everybody can just make him the scapegoat.
for
But
sure.
no, it's a sample size thing, like, it just depends, like, which do you wanna put more value into? Like, the 3 years where they were, you know, basically a top 5 team with runners in scoring position with, what, thousands of at bats? Or do you wanna take the single season of this year with runners in scoring position where they have how many at bats? Um, about 900.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's
Yeah, I'm gonna take the bigger sample size on that one. It's just something you just ball's gonna hit the grass eventually.
For sure. Yeah, and I mean, like, it's tough. Also, just for my mom, because I know that she's might not know, WRC plus weighted league average. 100 is league average. Below 100 is below average. Above 100 is above average. Just it's so like 200 WRC
My
plus
bad.
is 100% above league average. No, that's okay. I figured, and some of our listeners might not know because I didn't know.
No, that's a good
Before this.
point.
Yeah, before these past few years. So yeah, it's but yeah, the Rays are, they're figuring it out. Like they're on the up and up offensively for sure. But that's how it be sometimes. Sometimes, like you said, the ball just doesn't find the grass. Sometimes it does. It's kind of a tough thing that doesn't really stay consistent over the years. But that's how it be sometimes. But if we don't
Yeah.
have any other questions, I'll let you get ready for this game at 1 p.m. Our listeners and Ben, I know you've got stuff to do to prepare for the game and everything. Yankees fans to talk trash to on Twitter and all that stuff. So
Nope,
I really
not for
appreciate.
me anymore.
What's that?
I get yelled at too much. I can't. I don't wanna do that.
Yeah, getting yelled at by
Just get
Yankees
mad at
fans is
me.
never fun. But
Well,
yeah, we'll
one
we'll
more thing on the Rays in scoring position thing. They're top 10 in plate appearances with runners in scoring position. So, like, they're getting guys on. Like, that's the goal is to have a good at bat, and they're doing that. The ball just needs to find the grass. So don't worry about it. It's gonna be fine. They've been above average at scoring for a long time, and they'll do it. No worries.
yeah,
But
it'll
sorry,
all
you
work
can
itself out.
do the wrap up thing, I guess. We can,
No,
close
no,
off.
you're good. I figured 55 minutes was a good stopping
Yeah,
point.
that's a good amount.
For sure, for sure. So we really appreciate y'all for tuning in, and I really appreciate Ben for hopping on with me as always. He's the master, and hopefully the Rays are able to take a few games from the Yankees because God, I hate when the Rays lose to the Yankees. It's tough, but we'll see. But either way, we'll be back next week with some more content. I'm sure Pat and Zach or one of them will be back next week. But before we let you go, as always, Rays up.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.